The Sparrow Academy is here. Today we are talking Season 3 of Umbrella Academy. Let's do it. What is up, Netflix fans? Welcome back to my channel. We are talking all things on streaming, and today's series is one that I've seen every single episode of. That is Umbrella Academy Season 3. Everything is different this time around, but is it good? That's the question. Leave your comments and thoughts down below. Are you excited for this season? No spoilers in this review. After putting a stop to 1963's Doomsday, the Umbrella Academy returned home to the present, convinced they prevented the initial apocalypse and fixed this godforsaken timeline once and for all. But after a brief moment of celebration, they realized that things are not exactly, not at all, how they left them. Enter the Sparrow Academy. This is a group of smart, stylish, and somewhat cold group of superheroes that immediately crash with the Umbrellas in a violent face-off that turns out to be the least of everyone's concerns, navigating challenges, losses, and surprises of their own, and once again dealing with something that is wreaking havoc on the universe. All they have to do is convince Dad's new and possibly better family to help them put right what made their arrival wrong. Will they find a way back to their pre-apocalyptic lives, or is the world about to reveal more than just one hiccup in the new timeline? Timelines galore, but again, we are bringing back all the characters that we know and love. Every member of our academy, they are back and just as good as ever, but now we are facing off with this new group of heroes. Dad has went and assembled a new academy, and we get a nice little montage to start off the first episode, but our new heroes include Ben, returning, but a very different version this time around, Jamie, Alfonso, Marcus, Faye, Sloan, Christopher. I was very intrigued how they were going to handle the floating cube, and it was interesting, to say the least. But these new characters do reflect the heroes that we know and love. Very different power sets, and I love the exploration of that, especially in the first episode. You immediately know what they can do and how it differs from our characters. Now, their number one, he's big and he's strong. May be the extent of knowledge we have about his character. There are a few members of the Sparrow Academy in this season that do get shortchanged, like they are there, but they aren't there and explored in the way that maybe I expected them to be, and that is the case for about half of that crew. The other half, we learn so much about them and what makes each of them tick. One of the great things about Season 3 is that this time around, it doesn't focus as much in the first half of the season on the grand end-of-the-world type stakes. We have that storyline every single season. We thought we were rid of that at the end of Season 2. Well, now something else is happening. Something distinctly different than what we've seen before. The stakes may even feel higher at times, but not during the first half of the season, because what the first half is doing is it's exploring these characters as individuals and then forming different relationships than what we know, but also the fallout of not returning to their timeline. And I think the character that this is hurting the most is Allison this time around. She makes some decisions in this season that are purely irrational. Like, there's nothing about her decision making that feels like she thought it through, and that's unfortunate because it does kind of make me look at her character a bit differently. But once you sit and think about it, you understand, well, there are going to be members of our Umbrella Academy that want to return to their timeline because they have things to go back to. They have reasons why they need to go home, essentially. So Allison is one of those characters that deals heavily with that in this season. The next family member is Victor, and I think that storyline is so prominent throughout the first half of the season, but the way that they handle that transition, and Paige just does a nice job of displaying that subtlety, and you feel the repercussions of that romance in Season 2 and how this is affecting not only Victor, but the family as a whole, and how there are remnants of that storyline that factor heavily into Season 3. There are just really good things about that story, especially in the first half of the season. So that's yet another character with a lot of exploration and development. Then you have Luther, and Luther strikes an interesting relationship. There's a dynamic there with one of the members of the Sparrow Academy. You also still have that lingering storyline of reeling from what happened with Dad. There are flashbacks galore all throughout this season, but I think his specifically set a good pace as to where his storyline is going to go in the back half of the season. I thought he was heavily focused on for good reason. Number 5, not as much to do, a good amount of screen time, but not as much to do this time around. I think season 2, he was able to really get a grasp on this character, and honestly, he's one of my favorite characters, so I was a bit bummed out when he didn't get a major piece of this story within the first 6 to 7 episodes. There are definitely things to do for everyone in the final few episodes, because that's when it hits the fan, that's when it all goes down. That part is thoroughly entertaining. You also have Diego, and Diego is having to handle one relationship. There's someone new that's in his life now that it feels like he has to essentially take care of this person, and a lot of this is separated from the family. He maybe feels the most distant this time around. Well, I guess Allison feels the most distant, but the second most distant this time around. Regardless, I did enjoy his story for the most part. Klaus, another one of my favorite characters. Klaus's storyline is very interesting. A lot of it has to do with the relationship between he and Reginald. And Reginald is one who clearly has a nice relationship established with the Sparrow Academy in this universe, but he's also attempting to tap into things with the Umbrella Academy, and the way these two factions go up against each other in that first episode. Sparrow Academy, Umbrella Academy. There's action there. We're also treated with a very interesting scene. I'm like, where's this going? I don't know what's happening. And then you realize it just has to do with someone's powers. So it was great. It was entertaining. But at the same time, I wanted more of that clash displayed on screen. And again, we get it in episode 1, and there are a few individual fights. I thought the choreography was okay, maybe not on the levels of season 1 and 2. I do think the pandemic impacted the filmmaking here. There are also some green screeny moments, and we've had green screen in the Umbrella Academy in the first 2 seasons, but it's very obvious, maybe more obvious than before in this season, and that did somewhat affect my enjoyment, especially in that first episode. Their version of number 1, he's doing flips off a building, and frankly, it looked terrible, so I'm like, it's taken away. And really, the first episode as a whole, I was struggling to get on board, which is crazy, because I thought season 2 was fantastic, and I'm like, all right, the Sparrow Academy's here, but we don't learn a lot about these characters in the first episode. And the ones that we do learn a lot about, you do come to enjoy the on-screen presence of a few of them, but someone like Ben, a character that I love from the first 2 seasons, every time we get those remnants of Ben, and then this is a very different version of Ben, and frankly, an extremely unlikable version. He's just an unlikable character in general. So while you do learn a bit about him, the on-screen presence, great job by the actor, but the character, I was bummed out. He was so unlikable, and I get what they're going for, but at the same time, you have to have some sort of redeeming quality, and I was never really able to find that. I believe the story is less focused on bringing everything together throughout the first 6 to 7 episodes of the season, because it isn't really until 7 or 8 when you finally start to get a clear picture of what this is really all about. Again, there's something bad happening. We don't really know what. There's side stories after side stories, and it all feels so scattered at times. There's a lot going on, and maybe one too many things, because at the end of the day, season 3 doesn't feel nearly as focused as seasons 1 and 2. And that build-up, while there are so many storylines that are interesting, there are also 1 or 2 that I just wasn't fully invested in. Again, the standouts include Victor, Diego and Lila, Luther, Klaus. I could have gotten more from number 5, even though he's still incredible. Allison's storyline for me, she just acted a bit different than maybe I expected her to. And then you have so many things on the side happening. At times, it just feels like there's too much going on. When everything's going down, you're getting that back and forth, or anytime all of our siblings are on screen together, those moments are so memorable. And I just love how these relationships continue to grow and form and change all throughout until the end of season 3. And by the time we get to the end, there are different things happening than I ever expected to happen in this series. And while the story does, crazy enough, feel a bit rushed, there is this sense of satisfaction knowing exactly what goes down at the end. Not fully where season 4 is going, but you have an idea, and that idea presented to me is oh so exciting. And don't get me wrong, the Sparrow Academy, they're not bad in this season. They're very interesting. I love the power sets, but I did want more from them in terms of character development for the most part. So before I give you guys my score, let me know, are you watching Umbrella Academy on Netflix tomorrow? And which season is your favorite so far? Season 3 takes plenty of chances and nails a few of them. The inclusion of the Sparrow Academy is somewhat underwhelming, but there are more than a few great moments and characters to come from that. I had a good time at the end of the day, and I think the characters are what's making the show thrive right now because they're all so interesting. My score is a rock solid 70%. It is technically my least favorite season of the 3 so far, but there are some great ideas at play here, and they handle so many things with these characters nicely, and I didn't really have a problem with any of the performances themselves. So you guys are the best. Thanks so much for watching. Stay tuned. My reviews for Elvis and the Black Phone coming soon.